in this lesson, what I want to do is start thinking about the role and the importance of Vladimir Lenin towards the October Revolution. So, of course, the February Revolution is sort of done separately while Lenin is out somewhere else, and we'll explain where that is and where he's exiled to and how he returns in this lesson. But it's the ideas and the ideology of Lenin that becomes very, very important as we then start to transition ourselves towards the October Revolution and the formal consolidation of Bolshevik authority. So this lesson is going to talk about the sort of practical considerations that we have to think about for Lenin, how he actually gets back, and the influence of the Germans in establishing his return, and think about upon his return, his April thesis and the sort of reaction to it, before moving on to thinking about the broader ideology of Lenin, why this ideology is important to the Bolshevik Revolution. So Lenin enters the fold in between the revolutions, between the revolution of February and the revolution of October. We can see that prior to all of this taking place, Lenin is exiled in Switzerland. And while exiled in Switzerland, he feels compelled to return and take charge. He sees this opportunity with the existence of the provisional structure, the existence of the dual power structure between the Soviet and the provisional government, as an opportunity to consolidate Bolshevik authority, to establish Bolshevik authority in Russia. And so, therefore, he feels compelled to return. Western allies, however, of course, denied him safe passage and denied safe passage more broadly to revolutionaries. And so instead, what he does is him and his companions negotiate quite an ostentatious route through wartime Germany. So one of the things that benefits Germany is the fact that Lenin's political decrees are, of course, all geared towards this idea of ending the war and withdrawing Russia from the war against Germany. That's something that benefits Germany. They don't have to fight a war on two fronts against the Russians if Lenin takes them out of the war. So in addition to just sort of generally being keen and open to facilitating revolutionaries inside Russia, the Germans would benefit from the fact that they can then start to transfer their resources towards the Western Front against the French and the British, while the Russians have sort of left this part of the conflict and are able to do other things. And so it was Germans who would benefit from the fact, it was Germany that would benefit from the fact that Lenin would eventually get to Russia. The negotiations would be led by a trusted Swiss socialist by the name of Fritz Platan, who negotiated a group who was part of the negotiations and accompanied the group of about 30. This was more than just Lenin, so it was Lenin, Zinoviev, Krupuska, a number of other individuals to go on this covert journey through to the Russian state. The sealed train journey begins with Lenin and his comrades departing from Zurich and reaching Gottmagden on board a sealed train carriage, on the German-Swiss border, to board a specially arranged extraterritorial sealed train carriage. This is what happens after they get to the German border. German authorities agreed not to search the carriage or to disturb the journey at any point throughout. It's all sort of covertly done. The carriage would travel through Germany via Frankfurt and Berlin, reach Sassnitz near the Baltic coast, and then be ferried to Sweden before crossing through Finland and then entering into Petrograd. Quite a long and arduous journey. During the journey, Lenin began to draft what became known as his revolutionary platform, the April thesis, that he would sort of announce almost immediately. Lenin would arrive at Petrograd's Finland station on the night of the 16th of April 1917, the 3rd of April by the Julian calendar, or the 16th by the Gregorian calendar. So we can see that he is met by cheering crowds of workers and of soldiers and of sailors, some of them already chanting and waving red flags. And it was here that he immediately delivered his April thesis, the April thesis that was his revolutionary platform. The speech was particularly fiery, and it denounced the provisional government, calling for all power to the Soviets, and advocated for the immediate withdrawal from World War I. It demanded land, peace, and bread was the sort of three sort of cogent parts of the April thesis. This forms the core of the April thesis. Peace, of course, withdrawing from World War I. Land, redistributing land to the workers and the peasants, and bread, of course, actually being able to eat fundamentally. This radical proposal actually contributes significantly to the April crisis and exposes the fragility of the dual power structure. Lenin had always been a denouncer of the dual power structure, the idea of a Bolshevik or the idea of a bourgeois and a proletarian structure of power that lived and existed in conflict with each other. We can see that the foreign minister Milikov's note, which affirmed an aggressive war, a war that desired the annexation of land, the annexationist war, sparked even more mass demonstrations, forcing Guchkov, or the war minister, and Milikov to resign. The Bolsheviks, having rejected the cooperation with the provisional government, would then start to emerge as the uncompromising socialist faction, and this would gain popularity among the disillusioned masses, especially as we start to think about, as time goes on, why the war continues, the failures of the provisional government's conducting of the armed conflict of the First World War in July, and then the sort of practical implications associated with the Kolinov coup and the October Revolution in future videos.